Come on, Annie. Let's go to the movies.
This is the Cinereelists episode 605. My name is Kyle.
My name is James.
And my name is Zach.
And we're here to talk movies, movie lists, and movie obsession for the next hour or so. But first, I want to welcome Zach back to the podcast.
Bring Zach back. Bring Zach back. Bring Zach back.
Thanks. Thanks, Kyle.
The people
Thanks,
have spoken, and we decided to bring you back from Ohio.
Absolutely. Yeah, I was gone last week. Missed you guys, but I'm back.
Welcome.
Oh, yeah, we missed you too.
Thank you.
How was your time in Ohio?
Amazing. Specifically, I didn't just go to Ohio. I went to Toledo, Ohio.
Which is considered the most amazing spot in Ohio.
I certainly think so. I had an incredible time in Toledo, for sure. My whole life, I've wanted to go to Toledo.
And
Right.
and why is this, Zach?
Yeah. So we had a cassette tape about Toledo, Ohio. It was like stories and songs.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
About Toledo, and anytime we were in a car trip longer than 20 minutes, that would be playing on loop. And so I've heard it hundreds and hundreds of times. And so, yeah, it's always just been kind of this magical place that I wanted to go to.
I've never heard anyone speak so passionately about Ohio as you have.
Again, I don't know anything about Ohio, but I know a whole lot about Toledo.
Okay. Any aspect of Ohio whatsoever.
Yeah. Yeah, they don't get a lot of tourists, that's for sure. And some people were very confused that I was in full tourism mode while I was there, but
You mean the fourth largest city in Ohio is not a tourist destination?
it sure should be. This is like a hidden gem. I mean, this is absolutely a place that needs to become like on the map for sure.
Why so?
It was awesome. Okay, if you want to know.
Yes, I do. I do. I know I'm giving you some grief, but I'm genuinely interested.
So they have the Toledo Museum of Art is literally like world class. It got this endowment 100 years ago, and it just will live forever. And it has the most amazing collection. I mean, I was literally tripping over Van Goghs and Picassos as I was walking through the museum.
So they're not even mounted on the ceiling; they're just laying on the floor.
There's too many. No, literally, I was seeing like David was like in the second room. When you first walk in, you know the guy that makes balloon animals out of like steel?
No.
Chuli or something like that.
I forgot his name, but yeah, once
Chuli's
you've
the
seen
glass
one,
guy.
you'll recognize him.
Okay, yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah,
You first walk in, there's just this gigantic balloon monkey. It was just such an impressive museum, and you're just not expecting it in the middle of Toledo, and it was awesome, and it's free, and it's great. The zoo there had literally every animal I could think of. Like I couldn't come up with an animal that I wanted to see that they didn't have. I was halfway through the zoo, and I was like, man, I wish they had a Komodo dragon. And then like 5 minutes later, there were 2 Komodo dragons. And every animal seemed to have a baby. So like the tigers had little tiger cubs, the polar bears had polar bear cubs, the gorillas had little gorillas
cubs.
It was just it was awesome.
Do you trip over any animals there?
No,
Okay.
but the cheetah exhibit was right next to the wolf exhibit, which is very exciting for me.
Wow.
So the zoo's amazing. The art museum's amazing. The downtown's awesome. I went to a hockey game, the Toledo Walleye, and it was awesome. They went in double overtime, and I found out that the Solar Bears play Toledo.
The Solar Bears? Who are the Solar Bears?
Yeah, that's our local hockey team.
That's our Orlando, what do they call it? Minor league hockey team.
Yeah.
James, do you feel like you're in a Christopher Guest skit right now?
No.
Okay.
No, legitimately, I had an amazing time.
That's awesome.
And I'm definitely going back. The next time with the family. But I have to tell you about 2 things.
Okay.
First is I had emailed the mayor's office before I went, and I was just on a whim. I was like, hey, if the mayor wants to grab lunch, let me know. I'll buy him lunch. And they took me up on it. So I got to have lunch with the mayor of Toledo.
The mayor. What
Absolutely.
is his or her name?
His name's Wade.
Just Wade.
His last name's hard to pronounce. It's like Capsicacious or something like that. Sorry, Wade.
Is he a listener now?
No, I doubt it.
Oh, okay.
I had an amazing time with Wade. He was definitely intrigued by me. I think he doesn't encounter many people that are like enthusiastically come to Toledo.
Mhm.
Anyways, I'll come back to the mayor in a second. But while we were having lunch with the mayor, a judge comes up and he starts making fun of the mayor because he's like, I've been trying to get dinner with the mayor for like months now, and you're having lunch with him. Anyway, the judge was a really nice guy, and he offered to take us on a private tour of the courthouse. So he took us to his chambers and then up into the like inside of the rotunda, which is like unfinished, a private stairway up to the rotunda. And they have a brick wall up there, which people have been signing for the last 150 years. And he let us sign it.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
And the
cool.
mayor came. The mayor's never been up there. And so he signed it too.
Oh, nice.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
And then, okay, so the mayor definitely was intrigued by me. He ended up clearing his whole afternoon schedule and spent the afternoon giving us kind of a tour around Toledo and City Hall. And Kyle, this is I already told James this, but this is the craziest part.
Okay.
He's gonna give me the key to the city.
You are actually getting the key to the city.
Yeah.
That was our
Yeah.
big question. Would you meet
Yes.
the mayor and you get a key to the city?
Yeah, I'm being completely serious. He said he's going to give me the key to the city. So I'm going to go back hopefully soon with the family, and there's going to be an event, and he's going to give me the key to the city.
Wait, like
They're
there's
going
going to be a
hold an event. They're
ceremony?
like going to call the press. Random
Yes.
guy from Orlando really likes our city.
Is there any chance he thinks you're a crazy person and this is just to get you to leave? And now, like,
No.
the
you've been
judge
banned from
certainly did. The judge was like skeptical.
the
of me
judge
at
thought
first,
like
for sure.
maybe there's something off with
Yeah.
you. Okay.
He used to be the lead prosecutor for the city.
Okay.
Sure.
And he was definitely skeptical of me at first. No, here's what it is.
Yeah.
And you guys are perfect examples of this. Everyone I met in Toledo is a perfect example of this. Whenever you mention Toledo, Ohio, everyone just is like skeptical, right? They're just like, what the heck about Toledo? I don't know anything about Toledo. Who cares about Toledo? And the people there kind of feel like the whole country is laughing at them a little bit behind their backs,
Sure.
when really probably the country's not thinking about them at all.
You're right. Yeah.
But yeah, everyone expects it to just be this like nothing Rust Belt town. But I legitimately had an amazing time there, and I'm excited to go back. And I feel like I just scratched the surface. And so I think the mayor sensed that I wasn't in it for the laughs. I was just truly a fan of the city.
Mhm.
And he's like, yeah, we need more of this. Let's give him the key to the city. So I'll take it. I don't know anyone else who has a key to a city, so I'm in.
You might become like the cultural ambassador for Toledo, Ohio.
Hey, I'll take it. Absolutely.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So I had an awesome time.
If the mayor offered you a job in Toledo and it was competitive, if not better than what you're making now, would you consider moving to Toledo?
Absolutely.
Ohio?
Absolutely, I would.
That's
Here's the
wild.
thing. So there's a it's in 130 years ago,
Mhm.
it was like one of the best places to live in the country. Like all the like wealthy people had a place in Toledo, kind of a thing. So there's this area called the Old West End, which is all just 4-story mansions, like 6,000 square feet, 20-room mansions, and they sell for like $200,000.
Sure.
I'm sure they're cheap. Yeah.
So the price of living there is way, way different than here.
Yeah, way, way low. But
Sure.
again, like all these amenities, like have these endowments from back then,
Mhm.
and so there's so much infrastructure there that's like heavily subsidized by these endowments, and so it's really cheap to live there too, and still have like all this amazing stuff.
Wild.
Yeah.
The congressperson for Toledo, Ohio is Marcia Captor, and she is in her 21st term.
Wow.
Nice.
She's been a member of
crazy.
Congress since 1983.
That's crazy.
Okay, that's not crazy long. I guess they're like 2-year terms.
They're 2-year
right?
terms, but
Yeah.
I mean that's 40 years of representing a district in Congress.
Ohio's
Yeah.
a battleground state, isn't it?
Yeah, I would say it's become maybe redder
goes,
in the last maybe this century, but it's definitely still considered battlegroundish. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Interesting. Because less and less, I mean, the last 20 years, Florida has not been. But there was a time it was. So at least if you moved there, you'd know your vote would count more.
Yeah. And I do have one more check-in.
Okay.
Hit us.
This past week, I took Kayla, who's 5, to her first movie theater movie.
Oh, okay. Big milestone.
What
Yeah,
did she
huge
think
milestone.
of Killers of the Flower Moon?
I mean, she's really tapped into like the Osage people
Yeah.
and what, their history. So she was engaged for the first 3 hours, I would say.
The last half
No.
hour, she got a little squirrely.
So I didn't see my first movie till I was 7.
Okay.
And I kind of had a similar timeline in mind for her, except she's in kindergarten now. And the teacher told us that at the end of the year, she takes all the kids to the movie theater to see whatever movie's out that time. And so basically the clock was ticking because I didn't want her first movie to be without me.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of kindergarten, she was going to go to theater because I'm not going to like say she can't go with her whole class.
Yeah.
Right. What was the movie?
It was Paw Patrol, the Mighty Movie.
Okay.
So this is the second Paw Patrol movie.
Now, has she seen the first?
Oh yeah. She loves the first.
So like continuity wise, she knew what was going on.
Yeah.
So did you
Yeah, and,
pre-watch it to make
Jacob-
sure it was acceptable?
No.
Wow.
But I'd seen the first and I read about the second.
Okay.
So I was pretty confident.
Okay.
I mean, these movies are pretty squeaky clean. But my son is really into Paw Patrol and they've seen the Paw Patrol movie maybe 6 times. And so she was excited about it and she had an awesome time and she liked this one better than the original. So it was a win.
Great.
And what did you give Paw Patrol 2 on Letterboxd?
Oh, that's a good question. Let me pull it up real quick. I gave it 3 stars.
3 stars.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's look up some other 3-star movies on Zach's Letterboxd.
Oh, the Paw Patrol movie's good. I like Paw Patrol.
Okay.
They're fun.
Let's not be ridiculous.
I mean, it's
here.
no Toledo, but it's good.
Yeah, Toledo's amazing.
Toledo is amazing, legitimately.
Okay,
And-
but multiple
And
times.
I can fly there for under $100.
Multiple times I texted Zach while he was in Ohio, in Toledo. I said, hey, how's your trip? And all he wrote back was amazing. And then like, that's all I got. Then like the next day, I'm like, hey, what'd you do today? How's it going? You're like, it's amazing. And then that's all I got. I'm like, is he being serious? Or is he
Yeah.
just like enraptured by Ohio?
Yeah, I bought 3 Toledo t-shirts.
For yourself, or like for the family?
Kyle, you're very focused on Ohio. You really got to get local with Toledo.
Okay. Toledo.
All right. Well, I'm glad you had fun, Zach.
Yeah, me too.
Thank you.
And I really hope you get the key to the city. That would be amazing.
Me too.
For sure.
I hope to take you guys sometime.
That would be fun.
We should do a Cinereelists episode from Toledo.
Do they do any film festivals there or anything over the course of the year?
I'm sure.
They
Maybe we
must.
could go out.
Absolutely.
Maybe we could time it with a film festival. That'd be fun.
I only want to go
I'll
if you
look
have
it
some perks, though. Like, I want to see that rotunda. I want to sign a wall. I want the fanciest restaurants. I want to go into the back room of the Toledo Museum of Art and see like the real Van Goghs that they don't display. So,
I have no prerequisite. I want to experience it as the common man.
oh no. I want the cultural elite that is Zach of Toledo, Ohio.
Well, I'll have the key to every door. So.
Right? Yeah, that's a literal skeleton key, right? You can open up any door in the city.
It's like a 4-foot glass key.
Sure.
I'm just imagining this mayor is at lunch. He's like, sure, yeah, come back. We'll give you a key. Just, you got to leave first to come back.
All right. Well, from Ohio to Oklahoma, we're going to talk Killers of the Flower Moon this week. This is the latest Martin Scorsese movie. We're also going to run down our 10 favorite films from the director, Martin Scorsese. Before we do that, we need to let you know there's a video version of this podcast on YouTube. If you're not already watching it there, you can check it out by clicking the link in the description or searching Cinereelists on YouTube. Find us there, subscribe, and watch while you listen. You could also support us on Patreon, patreon.com/Cinereelists. Find extra after show audio and other Cinerealist swag by supporting the podcast. Leave us an Apple Podcast review. That's free and would support us. Just scroll down. If you're looking at the show in Apple Podcasts, click leave a review and let us know what you think about the show. 5 stars only. And also send us an email to heyguys@cinereelists.com, REEL with an S on the end. If you happen to be named Wade and be the mayor of Toledo, Ohio, and you're hearing this, send us an email and give us your perspective on Zach's lunch with you. I want to see if it's any different.
What'd you have
Like
for
I
lunch?
said, it wasn't just lunch. He cleared his whole schedule. We spent the afternoon together. He drove me around Toledo.
Sure.
What'd you have for lunch?
We had Tony Paco's Hungarian hot dogs.
Oh.
What kind of car does Wade drive? Zach?
A Jeep, of course.
Of course.
What do you mean, of course? Because they
Well,
make
because
them
the
in Toledo?
Jeep plant's in Toledo, Ohio.
Gotcha.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so they make Jeeps. So we actually visited the plant because right now the Jeep workers are on strike.
okay.
So they're giving tours to tourists while the Jeep.
No.
workers are-
You can just go to the plant and they're like camped out right now.
They actually let you build your own right now.
I mean, that is a feature of Jeeps. I don't know about modern Jeeps, but the old Jeeps, they like sold them that you could like take them apart and put them back together
Right.
as
Yeah.
just a normal person.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, so he drives a Jeep, a lot of Jeeps in Toledo for sure.
Nice. All right. Let's jump into it. We're going to talk Killers of the Flower Moon. We're going to talk about it in non-spoiler form, and then there'll be a little spoiler discussion at the end of this episode. So let's get into the spoiler free right after this clip.
They told me you was going with Matt Williams for a time.
You talk too much.
Oh, I don't talk too much. Just thinking who I got to beat in this horse race, that's all.
I didn't realize this was a race. I don't care for watching horses.
Well, I'm a different kind of horse.
Honkashi. Shomikasi shieko shiajimi.
What was that?
Shomikasi. That's how you are.
I don't know what you said, but it must have been Indian for handsome devil.
That was Killers of the Flower Moon, a movie that's in theaters now and on Apple Plus sometime before the end of the year, they're saying. They won't commit to a date. I think they're waiting to see how it does box office wise before they decide when they're going to drop it. I think if it bombs, it'll probably be Thanksgiving. And if it doesn't, it'll be mid-December. But Killers of the Flower Moon, an epic revisionist Western crime drama, according to Wikipedia. Starring, who is this starring? This is
Leonardo
starring Leonardo
DiCaprio.
DiCaprio, Robert De Niro, Lily Gladstone, Jesse Plemons, amongst others, many others, I would say. The official IMDb plot synopsis for Killers of the Flower Moon is: when oil is discovered in 1920s Oklahoma under Osage Nation land, the Osage people are murdered one by one until the FBI steps in to unravel the mystery.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
exactly right.
Can
I-
someone give us a layman's terms synopsis of what this movie's about? Spoiler free.
Sure, I can.
Okay.
So yeah, like the synopsis said, the Osage people discover oil on their land. This is reservation land that they've been moved to. This is like the fourth time they've been moved. When they were put on this land, everyone thought it was useless land. It was not good for farming, but it turns out it was one of the earliest oil deposits found in the United States. And the Osage people became very wealthy off of this oil. So I guess you could say white Americans came up with a plan. Hey, we want that money. So they was first start by trying to marry into those families to then get rights to that. And then soon it became, well, now that we're married in, let's start killing off the Osage people. So that way this money now just goes directly to us.
Mm-hmm.
And this tells the story of those events.
And then just in general, like whole white communities form like as parasites, basically, to like slowly, siphon off their wealth.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think the bigger story is that just like white people built towns that were designed to extract money from the Osage people, overcharging for things and, kind of taking advantage where they could, I would say. This story in particular is maybe the most extreme example of that type of activity, as far as the story that's told as the central story of Killers of the Flower Moon. But yeah, Scorsese's latest movie, he's in his 80s, I believe.
I think he just turned 80.
Just turned 80.
Yeah.
So probably not his last, but we're definitely getting there, I would say, after a long career. And also a movie that they spent $200 million on for a 3.5-hour movie. And we've all seen it. What did you guys think of Killers of the Flower Moon?
Kyle?
Yeah. So when we first chose this movie, I was not excited by the runtime because 3.5 hours in the theater is a long time. This movie does not have an intermission. I had a bathroom break. I'm sure you guys did too. We can talk about that at some other points. But as it got closer and closer to actually seeing it, I kind of got excited because this is Scorsese. And he's a good filmmaker. And I wanted to see what he did with this story that I knew nothing about whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
And I liked this movie. I think for one thing, he shined light on he's telling a story that I think most Americans do not know. It's definitely something that was never taught to me. I'm sure you guys, I'm not sure how familiar you guys with it, but so from that aspect of just like seeing this story on screen was fascinating and part of American history I was not aware of whatsoever. And then on top of that, I still think he's got it because even though this movie was 3.5 hours long, and even though there was parts that felt longer, I was never bored. I never felt the runtime necessarily of it never felt like it dragged out to me. There was so much story being told and so much momentum to the story that it kind of just kept clicking for me. And minus a few parts here and there, it was never like dragging or feeling slow. Performance wise, I think Leonardo DiCaprio is my Julianne Moore. Where usually when I see him acting, I really feel like I'm watching Leonardo DiCaprio. That's not saying he's a bad actor per se, but I don't think he disappears into roles as much as other actors for me personally. So I really can't comment on him as an actor because I think overall, I think he's just doesn't work for me. But the rest of the cast really worked for me, especially Lily Gladstone as the Molly character. Like the way she played that with pragmatism and purposefulness, I found really impressive. And how, she plays the Osage wife to Leonardo DiCaprio, and she kind of knows why he wants to marry her. She sees through it, but at the same time, she also sees some good in him too. So I thought she played a really complicated and depthful character. And then De Niro, maybe one of his best performances in 20 years. I guess he was good in Irishman. So, but definitely, I thought this was really prime De Niro. There's a lot more I could talk about, especially about the plot and some of the storytelling, but I kind of want to hear the highlights from Zach.
I loved it. I really had a great time with this movie. It's a story that I knew nothing about, but Scorsese did such a good job world building. So I felt like I had this understanding of a moment in time that I wasn't aware of. It felt like, for time period movies, this one felt very real. Mm-hmm. It didn't feel like, we slapped a sepia tone on something, or it didn't feel like these are modern people wearing costumes, pretending. It felt very much of the time. Like I felt the world he built felt authentic and old and contemporary at the same time. I thought De Niro did amazing. Like Kyle said, he's kind of, I don't know, he kind of falls into certain De Niro patterns and has phoned in a lot of performances in the last couple decades. But I thought this one, he was awesome. And I was really happy to see that he's still got it for sure. Yeah, De Niro, he was doing this thing with his lip, and like he had weird teeth. And
De Niro or DiCaprio?
Distracting it. No, DiCaprio,
Yeah.
sorry. DiCaprio was doing this thing with his lip and his teeth.
Was he
And it's
wearing
just
like
a
a
little
jaw
distracting.
piece, do you think?
He must have
Okay.
been. He
Yeah,
must have
like
been wearing
Brando
something.
in Godfather. Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, it got to the point where like at the beginning I was like, it's hard to see what she sees in him, She's like he's kind of dumb and he didn't look particularly attractive. She thought he was attractive, I guess, but yeah, I don't know what she saw him at first, but I thought he did a good performance. I thought all the performances were really good across the board, especially Lily Gladstone was great. Yeah, I mean, it was long. I did not take a bathroom break. I was very much into the movie, and yeah, it's kind of bold to make a 3.5 hour movie, but this one held my interest. I thought it was really interesting. It had a satisfying end for all the characters that I cared about. So yeah, I was really into this movie. What about you, James?
So just to be clear, you had to go to the bathroom, but you liked the movie so much you forewent a bathroom break, or you just literally
No.
didn't have to go?
I didn't think about going to the bathroom. I didn't have to go to the bathroom.
Okay. Just making sure. I did take a bathroom break, spoiler alert, because I had to go to the bathroom. And that's what I do when I need to go to the bathroom. I
We
enjoyed
are
the movie
human.
as well. Yes. I enjoyed it as well. I wouldn't say that like the runtime was a problem, but I definitely felt it for sure. I checked my phone twice just to see where we were at and how much story was left, I would say. I kind of felt like it was a mini series put on a movie screen at times. Like there's a couple details in here, a couple like extended scenes that maybe were if you were trying to provide a nice tight night at the movies, you wouldn't have included. Like I'm not sure they were necessary to tell the story. Like it wouldn't have changed the overall impression of the film by removing it. But I'm not mad at more good stuff at the movies, and I think generally that's what we got here. But I think they could have easily cut half an hour. In my opinion, of the movie would be pretty much the same. I wouldn't feel like
I was kind of hard pressed to find something that I would have cut as I was watching it. I was thinking that through.
I can think of one example of something you could cut to make it more streamlined, but I'm glad they left this in. Because it was one of my criticisms of the movie is maybe the lack of action from the Osage people. Like this really does focus on Leonardo DiCaprio and Robert De Niro.
Mm-hmm.
But there's one scene where the Osage elders are meeting and they're deciding who they're going to send to Washington DC to like contact the FBI or something. And it's probably like a 5-minute scene of just these various elders talking and sort of having this debate. And I liked that because it was great to see like, oh, this is how like the tribal council is dealing with the situation. They're taking action. But at the same time, you easily could have just had a character say, oh yeah, they sent so-and-so to DC to go talk to the FBI. And like they could have easily done that in 5 seconds of dialogue.
So they could have, but I think it's important to have that scene where you have the Osage being able to unrestricted say their piece.
Oh, no. So I'm agreeing with you. What I'm saying is if this was a tighter movie, like that is the example of a scene that would have been cut to make it, to get to a 3-hour runtime.
But I just think that would be at a loss. I think James was talking about stuff where you could cut it and you wouldn't really lose anything of value.
I guess
I would say you could cut that because the Osage people barely had a perspective in this movie. They were definitely in it.
Right.
And their presented as the victims of, I would say, the plot of the film. But there's not much meat to the idea that they are anything more than a passenger in this story. And so if you were to cut it, you'd cut all their moments.
Yeah.
Which is why I think it's 3.5 hours long, because what representation they do have, what agency you see them take here and there, pretty inconsequential to the story for the most part. And if they had taken that out, I think there would have been a pretty big outcry because then it really would have been just a bunch of, people taking advantage of other people who have no perspective in the story. And that might be how it was. I don't know. Maybe they literally never saw these types of things coming. But I do wish, given the amount of time we got, that we had a little more perspective into Lily Gladstone's character and what she was thinking, what she did know, what she didn't know, and what compromises she was making for love versus what she was literally just oblivious to, type of thing. Or maybe some kind of perspective on, I don't even know if this is true, but that like they just didn't assume that people were out to get them. You know what I mean? Like they just didn't have a nature. Maybe possibly the Osage people didn't have a nature of like backstabbing. It just doesn't enter their culture, type of thing. And so now all these white people come in and are trying to backstab them and they just never see it coming. I don't know. The movie doesn't give us their perspective at all.
But like, this isn't their first time encountering white people. Like they've been moved to reservations multiple times. Like I think they were pretty aware of what white people will do to them.
That's true.
Well, so even in the scene we're talking about, like that 5-minute scene where they're talking about who should we send to Washington.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We also get them and their relationship with Hayes, Robert De Niro's character. Maybe Hayes isn't his last name, but
Hale
or
something like that. Yeah.
How much they trust him and like value him.
True.
Yep.
Yep.
And so it's really like they are very skeptical of the white people. I feel like in the movie, it's just they put all their trust in the exact wrong specific white people.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
It's fair, but it's also already been implied over and over the course of the film that that's what's happening. You know what I mean? It's just the first time you've seen them say it outright.
Right.
In front of all of their, fellow tribes people. I don't know what you'd call them. Anyway, the movie we got instead was like a question mark of like, you've got this Leonardo DiCaprio character who's married this woman, and he's complicit in the deaths of her sisters, basically. And the question is, how much does he actually understand what's going on here?
Yeah.
Over the course of the movie, I think he understands on a base level, okay, I'm going to marry this woman, and that means I'm going to have money and I won't have to work anymore. You know what I mean? But then like, as he gets deeper and deeper, now it's like, it's not only that you're marrying her, it's that he's being manipulated by his uncle. Over the course of the movie, he's learning just how deep this goes. It's not just marrying a woman, it's murder, essentially. And over time, and as the story goes along, he gets more and more complicit. And the question of the movie, I believe, becomes more like, how far is he going to go with this? At what point is like love going to take over and he's going to stop this type of thing?
Yeah.
At least that was the question I was asking and was interested in having answered.
He's like the frog in the frying pan where the water is like slowly being turned up.
Yep.
Right.
Except he was already a bad frog to begin with, Like,
he's a pretty dumb frog.
Yeah.
And like just a not moral guy at the very beginning.
Sure.
Too.
Right. Like right away, he says, I like money. That's all he really cares about. He doesn't want to work. He just wants money. He's definitely a dumb character, though. Or maybe not dumb, but he's not wise. He lacks wisdom.
Easily influenced.
Right. And he's not aware of really what's happening around him, big picture, until it's too late. But he's definitely
And
complicit.
there's a really good line that De Niro's character had is like, are you waiting for a miracle to save you out of this?
Mm-hmm.
Like nothing's coming.
Mm-hmm.
And that really solidified it as like, yeah, he can kind of see where this all leads. He's just hoping something intervenes in the meantime and it doesn't lead to the inevitable.
Yeah.
Right. So anyway, that's the story we get. I do feel like there's the other half of the story that just isn't in this movie. And that's fine. It would have been 4.5 hours or 5 hours if they had included that and kept everything else that they already had. And what we got, I was intrigued by. So I don't necessarily have a problem with that, but I understand why it's as long as it is when I do think it could be half an hour shorter. We would have gotten the same movie, even if that meant cutting out all the Native American stuff, which people would have been outraged about, but it wasn't necessary to tell the story they ultimately told, in my opinion. But I mean, beautifully shot, beautifully acted. Lily Gladstone is one of the most subtle actresses I can think of alive today, and she's great. I mean, she's been in like 2 or 3 Kelly Reichardt movies. She's always good in them. I just wish we had more of her. The way, like her, in the moments where you can tell that she likes him, it's super interesting how she acts it out, because it's not your typical flirty romance type scenario. She's charmed by him, even though he's a little bit of a weirdo and like not your typical, leading man, suave guy. He's a goofball. And that's what she likes about him. And I agree with your assessment of De Niro. I can't think of, short of The Irishman, which is another Scorsese long movie, I can't think of another one in the last 2 decades where I'm like, he was amazing in it. In this one, I've watched a lot of De Niro movies in the last 5 days just because I've been mainlining Scorsese movies, and he is nothing in those like what he is in this one. And that's impressive when you're his age, for sure, to like just completely play kind of to type, but against it at the same time. Because I also watched a lot of mobster movies that he's in. I liked it, but I don't think it's perfect.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. I am really impressed with, and this is more of a Scorsese impression in general, but it was shown in this movie too, is how Scorsese uses violence and graphic violence to make a point and to shock you, but it never feels gratuitous.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that I've always been amazed by him as a director. And he does it here too, where like there are these quick moments of violence, and they're violent and they're bloody, but it's not like a Tarantino thing where you're reveling in it. Like it's almost for this shock value of how easy and quick and horrific violence can be. Like I don't think Scorsese likes violence per se, because he doesn't linger on it.
I've watched a lot of his early movies in the last week. I would disagree.
Okay, that's fine.
I think he's become a more mainstream director, and he has toned that down.
Sorry, you say he's toned down his...
He's toned it down.
Okay.
I agree with Kyle. Especially the comparison with Tarantino.
Sure.
It almost feel like when you compare, and I love some Tarantino films, right? He can do some really interesting stuff. But Scorsese does seem like such a more mature filmmaker than Tarantino to me in so many ways. And maybe this is a bad comparison, or maybe it's the perfect comparison. But like Tarantino to Scorsese might be a little bit like Michael Bay to Spielberg, in the sense of like they are jazzed by the same things, but like one just has such a more restraint of how to like express it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Tarantino very clearly and vocally says like, these are the things I like, and that's why I've made those movies for the past 30 years. You know what I mean? Like there's certainly some maturity over time in the storytelling, but the visuals and the way that things are presented, there's not a whole lot of difference between Not Quite Hollywood and Reservoir Dogs in the end. Whereas there's a clear difference between Scorsese's early movies and the stuff that he's putting out now, or has been putting out in the last 30 years. I don't think Tarantino has really grown up all that much over time.
Anytime you think he does, Hollywood, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, that is,
anytime you think he does, he throws in the last half an hour of Not Quite Hollywood. Like the first 3/4 of Not Quite Hollywood, you're like, wow, this is a different Tarantino.
Yeah.
He's being really restrained with this story. And then like out of nowhere, it blows up.
Yep. Yeah.
Anything else with Killers of the Flower Moon?
One interesting thing this movie does, and when we talked about like the runtime and like what would you cut out or whatever, occasionally it'll have like a 4-second scene. And like it totally works. It'll like just cut to a scene and it'll last for like 4 or 5 seconds and then cut to a different scene. And it's like that is the only part of the scene that we needed.
Mm-hmm.
And it showed it to us and moved on. And I was like, no other film really does that, but it just felt with the rhythm. And when the movie started, we start with the Osage people and they're kind of like lamenting the future and they're burying a peace pipe of some type. And at that moment, I was just like, okay, this is going to be a long movie. Because it was such a foreign, slow kind of moment, without much like momentum to it. And then the very next scene, the very next shot is like, okay, wow, okay, so this movie's going to have some energy to it.
Mm-hmm.
And that was exciting. And I think from then on, I was on board.
Yeah, I was excited to see a new Scorsese movie, even if it was going to be 3.5 hours long. I was looking forward to it.
I really like the score too. Like there's not much to it that's pretty minimalist, but like there was a lot of like just strumming bass guitar in the background and stuff like that. I was like, that's an interesting take on a score because it didn't feel like they were presenting it as some kind of epic or like there weren't a whole lot of huge swells here and there. But there was clearly like some improvised bass strumming in the background that drove the entire movie. Which I thought was definitely a choice and kind of gave you like a little bit of a feel of like, a drums, even though it was a bass guitar, I believe it sounded like a bass guitar. I just thought it was an interesting choice. I feel like this was clearly made for a streamer though. Felt like a movie that was more made for like people who could watch it at home and wouldn't mind a 3.5-hour movie versus like a movie theater. Yeah. You could add an hour to this and separate it into 3 episodes. It would be a great miniseries.
I did tell my father-in-law to wait on Apple TV. He was like, I don't want to sit for 3.5 hours in the theater. I'm like, then you can totally wait and see this movie on your TV.
Yeah. I think you could flesh it out with an hour more, give some of specifically the Osage characters a little more meat and tell it in 3 parts over 3 hour-and-a-half episodes, and you'd have a great miniseries.
All of the casting was really good. I really loved all the smaller kind of side characters that we just spent a little bit of time with. Like there was the melancholic Osage guy. Mm-hmm. He was really great. His friend, the white guy who was his friend. Mm-hmm. He was awesome. He felt like such a real person.
Whose friend?
The guy that like sold him alcohol.
No, Leo's friend you talking about, or the melancholic friend?
The melancholic Osage guy. Mm-hmm. He had a friend who sold him alcohol. They would hang out a couple times.
Oh yeah. It looked like they traveled back in time to 1920 and plucked this guy.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It was So a lot of those characters were so real.
You're right.
Well,
and all the other people complicit in the plots just felt like a bunch of just low life losers who worked in this movie.
Yeah,
sure. Yeah, it was good.
James, you're talking about the score. Did you see who the composer was of the score?
I don't know his name, but he's related to Scorsese somehow. Like Scorsese did a documentary on his band,
which is called
The Band.
There you go. Okay, yeah. So it was Robbie. It was Robbie Robertson.
Okay.
Who just passed away 2 months ago.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Wow. So was this the last thing he did?
This is one of the last things he did. Yeah. I mean, I'm not sure if he did more composing outside of Scorsese. Mm-hmm. So this might be one of the last things he did. And like the other day at work, they were playing some internet radio station. Mm-hmm. And Robbie Robertson must have like recorded like a takeover day for that like months ago. And like all of a sudden his voice comes on like, hey, this is Robbie Robertson. Join me on October, blah, 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 as I take over the station. I'm like, okay, guys, like you maybe think to cancel this or something. Like it was a little weird to hear him promoting from the grave.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, maybe he already recorded the segment. If you're talking satellite radio, they do that.
oh, I'm sure he did, but like
Right.
then he
Maybe.
died, and like maybe someone made a decision. Maybe we don't like, or like maybe we don't promo it. Maybe we like make it a tribute to him or something like that, not just
Sure.
like throw the regular promo. Like here's this guy, say come join me on this day, who's been dead.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
I'd be willing to bet they definitely pre-recorded it,
Oh yeah,
not recorded it after he had died.
no, they haven't pre-recorded it, but just the decision to like treat it like a normal piece of programming seems odd to
Yeah.
me.
I remember hearing, what's the guy who was the host of American Idol? Ryan Seacrest.
Ryan Seacrest.
It blew my mind hearing Ryan Seacrest talk about how he fits in everything that he does. Right? Because Ryan Seacrest has like, the joke is he has like 10 jobs and like he needs, let other people have a job. He took over for Casey Kasem doing like the top 40 on
Mhm.
syndicated radio or whatever. I heard an interview with him where he was talking about how they were asking him like, how do you fit everything in? And they were like the top 40, how do you do that? And he's like, they give me the list of the top 40, they give me the script, I read it, they insert the music. He's like, so the top 40 is like 20 minutes of me talking,
Right.
even
yeah.
though it's like a 4-hour show on the radio. So he's like, that's how it works. My XM show, they give me a script, I read it, I might ad lib a little bit, but I pre-record all of it and then they put the music in between.
Mhm.
So it takes them no time. And I was like, that's crazy.
I had a friend a while ago who was a DJ at a local radio station,
Mm-hmm.
and he would do the same thing where like he had like a Saturday night show,
Mm-hmm.
and he would like record all the interludes between his dialogue, and then he himself would have to intercut the music. So like we would spend the week making his show,
Mm-hmm.
but then Saturday night we'd be hanging out and like listening to the radio, and he's talking
He would
to
be
us.
on.
Yeah, he'd be
That's
on,
wild.
but obviously he's not there live doing it. So
Sure.
yeah,
I guess it just never occurred to me that that's how they did it. And not only that, but that's how they had been doing it my entire life. Like I assumed when I listened to Top 40 on Saturday morning, like that was the person at some station in LA or something like that, like doing it live. But nope.
There's a chance it could have been back then. Like I'm sure at some point Casey Kasem did spend 4 hours in a studio.
And listen
doing
to the
that.
music in between each one and
Yeah,
sit there the entire time.
yeah. And then at some
Uh,
point they're like, "Hey man, let's just pre-record this." So
Right.
Yeah.
Who knows?
all right.
Anything else with Killers of the Flower Moon before we talk spoilers? All right, let's letterbox it. What'd you guys give Killers of the Flower Moon?
I'm at a 4-star right now.
I'm at a 4.5.
I am also at a 4-star.
Cool.
All right. If you'd like to hear spoilers for Killers of the Flower Moon, listen to the end of this podcast. After the music, you'll hear us come back and we'll talk spoilers, or you can find a link to jump right to it in the description. Let's jump into the top 10 films of Martin Scorsese.
Oh, I did Morton Morosi.
Martin Scorsese.
Scorsese?
That's how you pronounce it. I learned that this week. That's what his longtime editor, that's how she pronounces it in interviews. So
Okay.
I'm taking that as fact,
Okay.
basically. Let's get into it. The man's made movies. That's for sure. Since the 60s, he's made 26 feature-length films, not including documentaries, of which he has
I've seen
4 or 5 feature-length documentaries, I believe.
Are they including The Last Waltz as a documentary?
I include it as a documentary. It's not a documentary.
I mean, it's concert footage. It is documenting something happening, but it's also like I think it's considered one of his canon movies, not like his George Harrison 3-hour. That's clearly a documentary. I feel like Last Waltz is considered part of his normal filmography.
But Last Waltz isn't a narrative film.
yeah,
doesn't have a
it's-
script.
It's documentary.
It's a
I know.
documentary.
But okay, that's fine. Yeah, yes, it's a documentary, but it's weird to say like he's created blah, blah, blah films and 4 documentaries. Like I would include Last Waltz with his normal pantheon of movies.
But no, he's filming a live event. Right?
No. He's also interjecting interviews like with the band.
Yeah, like a documentary. It's a documentary. What are you saying?
I'm just saying. I'm saying
You just like it better than the others?
The Last Waltz has what's the word? It's grown out of the documentary label. That's
The
what I'm
Last
trying to
Waltz
say.
is on the Criterion Collection, is what he's saying.
Like it's a documentary, but it's seen as not just like, oh, it's a documentary. Like I think it's bigger than the label.
That's not pejorative to most people, like it is to you.
It doesn't matter.
Okay.
The point is, as far as narrative films go, as far as I know, he's made 26 of them.
I've seen 17 of them.
Nice.
Well, I've seen 18 of them, but I include one of those as The Last Waltz. So I don't know where we stand.
So you've seen 17 as well.
I've seen, as of 10 minutes before we started recording this episode, I'm pretty sure all of them.
Oh wait, no. I've seen one more than that because I haven't marked Killers of the Flower Moon as watched yet.
Sure.
So
Nice.
add one to that.
Nice. Yeah, so he's made a lot. We're going to count down our 10 favorite. Why don't I start? My number 10 is from 2010. It's Shutter Island. I'll also say that, oddly enough, I don't have a 5-star Scorsese movie.
Neither do I.
Oh, I have multiple.
This one's a 3.5 for me on Letterboxd, which is the lowest on my top 10. Everything else is 4 and 4.5. I like this movie. I think some of his more artistic stuff that didn't quite make my top 10, some people might argue, are better movies. But as far as entertainment value, there's a couple of my top 10 that I just find endlessly entertaining, even if they are like more like genre films, I would say, made by Scorsese. And I think this might fall into that category, and that it's like a thriller. What would you call this? Like a psycho thriller, not psycho thriller. What would you call this?
It's
Mystery crime.
Sure, but it's got a psychological element to it.
You
and
call it
also like a
psychological thriller.
ghost. It's got a ghost element to it too, where like things are. No spoilers. Yeah, I enjoy Shutter Island. My number 10.
I'm pretty uneven on Scorsese. I don't think he's not one of my favorite directors, I would say. I think he's very competent. Like he's definitely not tour. Just maybe, he hits other people's sensibility a little bit more than mine, but I can appreciate what he's putting out there. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like he's super good at what he does. Just what he does doesn't always like resonate with me, but I still can appreciate it. My number 10 is Gangs of New York. And I will say right now, I guarantee my list is going to be very different than yours, guys.
Oh, probably.
I guarantee it.
Yeah.
But yeah, Gangs of New York, super interesting film. And it gave the character Bob the Butcher, which is such a good character. So yeah.
I would say Scorsese is one of my more favorite directors. Of these 10 movies, 9 of them are my top 600, and 4 of them are my top 100.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So if Zach's list is going to be like the odd one out, mine's probably gonna be the most basic Scorsese list of the 3 of us, and I'm okay with that.
All
So
right.
my number 10 is Raging Bull, 1980. This is the Robert De Niro boxing movie. I think it's like a Ray LaMotta or something like that he's playing. And I really like this movie. It's shot in black and white. It's got some really brutal and well-shot boxing scenes. And it's a great De Niro performance, which is going to be said a lot from me in the next 10 movies.
My number 9 is from 2019. It's The Irishman, which we kind of touched on here and there in our review of Killers of the Flower Moon.
That's my 9 as well.
That is also my 9.
Whoa.
Perfect.
And my number 600 movie on my top 600.
A triple bingo?
Triple
That's
bingo.
Have we ever had a triple bingo? I don't remember.
I don't know. If so, only once.
Yeah.
This is can you play it again? Because I just didn't get to enjoy it.
Bingo.
Triple bingo.
Wow.
Good job, guys. We did it.
3 times for the triple.
That's a bingo.
Podcast over. Thanks, everyone.
You can now watch your movies.
Yeah, what if we
No,
did
no,
that
we're not
and,
talking
like,
about this.
2
Let's
weeks
go.
later?
The Irishman.
Great movie. Super long, super good. Spans the lifetime of a bad guy, I would say, mob guy.
Yeah.
And gives you kind of an interesting perspective over the course of a lifetime and kind of growing old into a life like that and having regrets and kind of feeling alone at the end of it all. And just a really good movie with a strong central performance from Robert De Niro. My number 9.
Anything to add, Zach?
Irishman, my number 9. No, nothing to add.
I mean, I think the only thing I would add is what I like with The Irishman so much, besides De Niro, are just the other characters. Like Joe Pesci, small role, but he's great in it. Ray Romano is playing, I think, a union leader, and he's playing a role I've never seen from him before. So there's so many great character moments in The Irishman.
Definitely. Another movie with great character moments. My number 8 from 1991, Cape Fear. I think this falls into the same reasons I like Shutter Island. So it's just like a pretty straightforward thriller that has Scorsese's touches on it here and there, like his version of this same kind of it's not necessarily a revenge thriller, but the De Niro character is kind of getting revenge, right? Isn't it De Niro in the main bad guy role?
I mean,
Like
he's
a jacked De Niro.
He's getting revenge against
Right.
the defense attorney that sent him to jail. So
Right.
like he's
So
not
it's
a
a
good
revenge
guy.
thriller, but not from the perspective of the person getting revenge.
No,
the
no.
person being revenged on. I like this movie. I've seen it a bunch since 1991, probably 4 or 5 times, and every time I'm like, this is a solid thriller. I really like it. It's my number 8.
If there's one Scorsese movie I haven't seen that I wanted to watch before we recorded, it was Cape Fear. I
Super easy
just-
movie to watch.
Right.
didn't have a chance.
For sure.
My number 8 is The Color of Money. A good hustle movie with a young Tom Cruise and an old Paul Newman, and I really liked it. I like movies about like con men and hustlers and stuff.
Have you seen The Hustler?
Yeah.
Isn't this movie a unofficial sequel to The Hustler?
I think it's kind of an official.
Is it official?
Sequel.
Okay.
I think
is
so.
Paul Newman playing the same character?
Yeah.
Okay. Then it's an official sequel to The Hustler.
Yeah.
I have not seen The Color of Money, but I have seen The Hustler. I like The Hustler.
Okay.
My number 8 is The Departed, 2006. This is probably his most mainstream movie. Maybe one other could be more mainstream than this. Again, great performances, especially from Jack Nicholson. But you also saw him working with people he hasn't worked with before or since, like Matt Damon. So I like this movie better than the original Hong Kong film, Internal Affairs or something like that.
Nice. My number 7 is from 1976. It's Taxi Driver, which is a pretty classic Scorsese film written by Paul Schrader. It's got Robert De Niro and Jodie Foster in it as kind of like the main dual roles. And, kind of a
And Candice
problematic,
Bergen.
probably a problematic film by today's standards, but an interesting one, and maybe the first of the Scorsese films I saw. Like I remember being a kid and hearing the name, and I remember all the controversy around Last Temptation of Christ, stuff like that. That was a big deal in my household, The Last Temptation of Christ, and like just how awful that movie was. As far as like the representation of Christ. Anyway, it was a controversial movie in like the conservative news sphere at the time. Literally like Catholic groups and other groups like protesting on the steps of I don't know, government buildings and movie theaters. Anyway, so I think at that point I got a skewed perception of who Scorsese was and like what he actually made. Like he represented like the dirty side of Hollywood to me, or like the bad side of Hollywood. And then, when I got old enough to watch things for myself, I saw movies like Taxi Driver, which I'm not saying aren't necessarily those things. It's a pretty scummy movie, I would say. But obviously that's not all Scorsese is. But this one's great. It's been a while since I've seen it. But kind of a classic Scorsese, grimy, New York-based movie that has questionable morals, but is a fun watch.
I don't know if the movie has questionable morals. Maybe the characters in the movie do.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
My number 7 is full of people with questionable morals. It's Goodfellas. And I see the value of this movie probably more than I actually enjoy watching this movie, just because everyone's so awful to each other. But the acting's really good. The performances are iconic. The movie's, a classic. So yeah, Goodfellas.
Goodfellas.
My number. Yeah, Goodfellas.
That's a
my number 7.
Good Animaniacs reference right there.
Yeah.
My number 7 is the kind of aforementioned The Last Temptation of Christ from 1988. This is Willem Dafoe playing Jesus Christ. He's a very tormented Christ, kind of dealing with the realization of his role within the world and spirituality, while also his role within the actual physical world. It's been a while since I've seen this movie, but it at least left a mark on me. I have strong memories of really liking this movie and being drawn to it, even if I can't remember the specifics. If there's one movie I could have rewatched for this episode, it would have been Last Temptation of Christ.
I've always seen Scorsese as like maybe the most Catholic director.
Mm-hmm.
He's always like working out his Catholicism on film is like my hot take. And I think it's fascinating and it's really interesting. Last Temptation is a movie that I don't like, but there's some really interesting stuff in there, like especially like the titular Last Temptation,
Yes.
that he faces.
Yeah.
Is very interesting thematically. And, his conversation with Paul is super interesting. So I appreciate that about it, even if I really did not care for that film, but yeah.
Zach, you should watch Who's That Knocking at My Door, which is his first movie. The ending of that is a very Catholic ending.
Sure.
Is it Jesus
Anyway.
knocking at the door?
No. It really has nothing to do with that at all until right at the end, and then it's like, whoa, all right. Anyway, my number 6, Killers of the Flower Moon, which we talked about.
My number 6 is The King of Comedy, which is such a great little sleeper hit of Scorsese. I like it a lot. Yeah, it's super interesting. I saw a video the other day. Scorsese's like daughter, I think, was teaching him like slang, and she's like, slept on. Like, do you know what slept on means? And he's like, no. And he's like, okay, the King of Comedy was slept on. He's like, oh, okay, not appreciated at all when it came out and lost a ton of money. And she's like, yeah.
How old is his daughter? Like, she's not like a Zoomer.
It might have been a granddaughter. I don't know.
Okay. Like, I imagine his daughter is our age, if not older. So
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay, maybe it was granddaughter.
Yeah.
I don't know about King of Comedy. Joker did it better.
Oh, Joker.
Oh,
Joker
unfortunately, that's not true.
wore its. Oh my God, Joker did so much worse.
I didn't like it. King of Comedy.
What'd you see first?
Joker.
Well, there you
Well,
go.
there you go.
There you go.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The only reason I watched King of Comedy is because people said like it was basically a remake of King of Comedy.
Yeah. You bought the plastic version from Walmart, and then you saw the original glass version, and you're like, well, plastic I can microwave.
Hey, if the original was that
King of
good, it
Comedy
would have.
glass.
I don't understand that analogy at all. Zach,
I
but
don't
it's
get it
okay.
either.
You wouldn't, because you saw Joker first. Of course you wouldn't understand it. Kyle doesn't understand it because he thinks you can microwave glass.
You could definitely microwave
You
glass.
can microwave
In fact, it's
certain
better to
glass.
microwave glass because you're not going to get leachables and VOCs.
Leachable. Some glass you don't want to microwave because it's going to crack.
Yeah, but
Pretty sure
you're
that's
not,
the
you're not
first
being
time
slowly
Leachables has
poisoned
ever-
by your glass.
By Leachables. That sounds like something I buy for my children, like
That's a
like a
Lunchable.
toy.
Oh no, no. Leachables. Leachables are chemical compounds that can leach from manufactured products and affect human health.
Yeah, microplastics or everything already. They're probably in my glass.
What's that pan, the nonstick pan that was controversial?
Teflon.
Teflon. Have you guys seen that HBO miniseries about Teflon?
Oh yeah, we throw out all our Teflon. I haven't seen the miniseries, but we no longer use Teflon.
The miniseries is so good. What's his name? Mark, the guy who played Hulk.
Mark Ruffalo.
Mark Ruffalo is the lead in it. If you need like an 8-episode story beginning to end on HBO, check that out.
Is it
Forget the
a
name of it.
narrative about Teflon?
It's a narrative. Yeah.
Dark Waters?
Dark Waters.
Oh,
Yes.
I heard
That's
of
what-
that.
That's about Teflon?
Yes. Dark Waters
Oh.
is great.
Wait, that's a
That is about
miniseries.
dirty water.
That's not a movie.
I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
Zach, it sounds like Zach has it pulled up, right? Isn't it more than just a movie?
It's a film.
It's
Oh,
a film. Okay, but
How long is
I've
the
heard
film?
of Dark
8
Water.
hours?
How long is the film?
Is it 8
Is that a
hours?
serious James, is that a serious question?
Is there an
Is it
intermission?
8 hours separated into 8 1-hour episodes?
It's 2 hours and 700 minutes.
All right.
How-
so it's
how
less.
close-
It's 2 hours and 6 minutes.
How close to a bathroom do I need to be to watch Dark Waters?
That's like 3 bathroom breaks for you.
Okay. I mean, all that water is definitely gonna get me going. So
I'm thinking of something. Dark Waters is about Teflon and does star Mark Ruffalo, but I'm thinking of another Mark Ruffalo miniseries on HBO that
About
has nothing
Teflon?
to do with Teflon. That's also really good.
okay, good.
Well, which one do I need to see, James?
You need
Which
to see
one do
Dark
you recommend
Waters
more?
just because of the Teflon angle. Both
Is
of
it
them are
this much-
really good.
I know this much is true.
I know this much is true. It's also really good.
What is that about?
Which one's better?
He plays a dual role in that. Like he
Okay.
plays him and his brother in that movie.
Okay, well, which one should I see? Let's say I can only see
You should-
one thing.
Well, if you can only see one, then I would see the miniseries. But
But
you're
Zach,
more
you can watch
likely to
other
see the
one when
movie
podcast
because
is
it's
done.
shorter. What? Would you ask that,
said-
Kyle?
You can watch the other one when the podcast is over.
You should watch both of them, to be honest. But
No, you can only choose one.
No,
I can't. It's one or the other.
All right, who's number? All right, Zach, are we on your 6?
My 6th, the King of Comedy.
Okay. Anything
Yeah,
else?
What's
you
your
said
six?
that.
Okay, my
What's your
6 is
six?
Casino, 1995. Scorsese has maybe made and remade Goodfellas a couple times,
Mhm.
and Casinos definitely feels like another crack at the
Maybe.
Goodfellas story. But I'm okay with that because I like the characters in Goodfellas. It's it's a mob movie this time based around the Las Vegas casino scene. You still have De Niro, still have Pesci. They're playing great characters. Sharon Stone gets brought into the mix. I like Casino a lot.
My number 5, the aforementioned The Departed from 2006. I love the cat and mouse of this. I like the idea of like following the different factions that are involved within, organized crime. You've got the people on the ground level doing the crime. You got the people investigating the crime. You got the double crossers on both sides, and just like the machinations of this story in general. Plus, Scorsese's version, he just packed with familiar faces, kind of all operating at the top of their game. And I think it's a good one. Number 5, The Departed.
I think Matt Damon is very funny in The Departed.
He is, for sure. Mark Wahlberg is
Wahlberg?
funny in it too.
Mark.
Okay. My number 5 is Silence from 2016. This stars Liam Neeson, Andrew Garfield, and Adam Driver. And it's the stories of 17th century Portuguese missionaries who go to Japan and face just incredible persecution from Japanese government that wants no part of cultural colonization. And the whole movie kind of hinges on this idea of, would you renounce your faith in order to like save lives or save your own life or those kind of things? And so each person is making different decisions against their conscience, or like dealing with their conscience. Anyway, the whole movie, again, very Catholic, but it's It's really interesting. I've read the book that it's based on, and it's based on true history or whatever. But it's very heartbreaking to watch. I mean, it's people like in anguish, basically, like emotional anguish as they trying to decide what the right thing to do is in an impossible situation. But it's very well made. It's very thought provoking. It's very interesting. But yeah, hard watch, and it's called Silence.
Never seen it, but probably should. Just to round us more Scorsese. My number 5, aforementioned The King of Comedy, 1982. Robert De Niro plays Rupert Pupkin, I believe, who's a wannabe stand-up comedian TV host who goes as far as kidnapping a TV host played by Jerry Lee Lewis to replace him. Sandra Bernhardt's in this movie. Has Sandra Bernhardt ever been mentioned on this podcast before?
I bet.
Yeah.
Okay.
Most weeks.
So just Leachables. That's the only new thing we're talking about this week. Okay. And yeah, I mean, this is another one of, I think Scorsese does a great job of writing and portraying tragic characters. And Rupert Pupkin's definitely a tragic character who you want to sympathize with, but he's also not a good person. So it's hard to.
My number 4 is from 2016. Almost lined up with you, Zach. That's Silence. Silence is great, and I think it's I don't know what the word is, underrated gem in his filmography. I agree it's a hard movie to watch, but not like because people are being tortured. It's just very tense movie for me.
Well, people are being tortured.
They do get tortured
Physically or psychologically.
Both.
Okay, great.
But that's not the bulk of the movie. The bulk of the movie is them like, being chased in a way. Like, are they going to get caught type of thing? And then the back half is like once they get caught. Anyway, this of all of them has the most distinct look and feel of all of his movies for me. Like just the cinematography of the location in Japan and the long drawn out, not necessarily one take, but what felt like drawn out scenes of tension are memorable in my mind. And great central performance from what's his name from Star Wars? You know who I'm talking about?
What's his name?
Mark
Adam
Hamill.
Driver.
James Earl Jones.
Adam Driver in this movie, I think.
Liam Neeson also from Star Wars.
Liam Neeson's in it as well.
Ewan McGregor, he makes an appearance.
Yep.
Hayden Christensen.
Jar Jar Binks.
Mark Hamill.
Jar Jar Binks has a real crisis of faith.
Yep.
He said, don't know what to believe.
This is a good one, and this movie slept on. That's all I can say about it.
I mean, I would definitely say Martin Scorsese is maybe the most slept on director of our
Nobody
modern
ever
era.
talks about him.
Yeah.
My number 4 is The Aviator, which I don't
Wow.
remember exactly why I watched this film, but it was related to people saying you need to watch The Aviator.
It was me.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
I ragged on you for years for not seeing The Aviator. I don't remember why you eventually watched it. Maybe you just got tired of me, or I don't know. Or maybe it was a challenge.
No.
Was it a challenge?
I have a firm policy. If James recommends a film, I will watch that film.
Within a decade.
Yeah, at my earliest convenience.
Guys, I actually want to say I am the reason Zach watched The Aviator.
Was it?
Because I wrote into the show because you guys were having some discussion. I think it was Aviator. Zach wasn't wanting to watch The Aviator, and maybe at the same time James was talking about this wasn't Lobster. James was talking about 1917. No, Dunkirk being like a thrill
Roller
ride
coaster
or
ride.
whatever it was like that.
Sure.
And I
Not a movie. It was an experience.
Exactly. And I wrote into the show and I was just like, James, you're stupid. This is wrong. And then Zach just watched the damn Aviator.
and that motivated Zach to
Yes.
watch it. Okay.
Yes, an early email. I'll try and find it. I'm sure I can dig it up at some point. So
I did watch The Aviator and I liked it.
you number 4 liked it.
I number 4 liked it. Yes. I liked it more than all of you if it's not on your list.
This email is August 3rd, 2017.
Yeah, okay. Do you want to read it?
It's a long email, so I'm not going to read it, but I'll you write some wrong emails. That's long emails. Zach, finish Aviator in one sitting. James, watch Lobster and bring whatever hype baggage if you want. Just watch it.
It was Lobster.
You both have until the end of the year to watch them and report back to your listeners. So he did throw that down the gauntlet, and I don't believe I watched it by the end of the year, but maybe Zach did.
No, but I did get you to watch The Lobster eventually, though.
Right.
Via Mark
That's
Hamill. So
Mhm.
it took some work.
Right.
Friend of the show.
Friend of the show, Mark Hamill.
Kyle, what's your next movie?
Oh, sorry. I was reading my email. I was just proud of myself. My next movie, my number 4, is Mean Streets from 1973. I don't think this is not Scorsese's first movie, but it's definitely his earliest one that I've seen. And if Casino is maybe not a remake, but a sort of a retread of Goodfellas, then I would say Goodfellas is a retread of Mean Streets. Because this movie is like Goodfellas, but instead of taking place across a vast criminal empire, this is like a small gang that controls a couple blocks of New York City. But it has all the same characters and motivations and violence that you see in Goodfellas, just at a much smaller scale. And I think it's really interesting to watch early movies from directors before they really have like found their footing, and to see, is there still their imprint, their footprint in these early movies. And for sure, Mean Streets feels like a Scorsese movie that is growing into what will become the Scorsese we know. Well, he's going to do Taxi Driver after this movie. This is the first of the 4 movies that is in my top 100. This is my number 98.
I hadn't seen it yet, so I watched it this last week. Didn't care for it.
Okay.
Didn't like it.
What didn't you care for?
It's kind of meandering. Like, not much happens until the very end of it, and then like credits right after it.
That's what it's like on the streets, James.
I guess. I don't know. I think I got bored of like men behaving badly in like a bar that nobody visits, evidently, because they're like the only people ever hanging out in it.
Maybe you're watching It's Only Sunny in Philadelphia instead.
No.
It's Always Sunny.
My number 3, somehow I'm following Zach on these, The Aviator from 2004, a movie that I like a lot. Great Leonardo DiCaprio performances. Was that his first Scorsese team up with DiCaprio? I think it might have been Aviator. Yeah, great movie, interesting story, and good performances all around. My number 3.
My number 3 is The Wolf of Wall Street. I think, I'm looking at my list. This is the funniest Scorsese movie. Yeah, it's got a lot of great moments in it. It's I would say it's an uneven film. It does glorify a bad person, kind of. And he's also like a part of the film in some weird way. But it's undeniably, there's some really memorable, great scenes in it. And I enjoyed it. So it makes my number 3.
My number 3 is also The Wolf of Wall Street. This is my 63rd favorite movie of all time. This movie flies by. It's 3 hours long, and it does not feel it whatsoever, just because it is so fast-paced. I don't know if this movie glorifies Jordan Belfort, I think his name is. But people definitely have seen this movie and glorified him because of it. So I definitely think this movie is presenting some of the more sensational aspects of who he was and the excess that he was living. And I think some people saw this movie and were like, yeah, I want that too. And this guy's awesome. But I don't know if I need to watch the movie again to see if it actually judges him for what he's doing, which is bad. He's a bad person.
Yeah, I mean, I think people watched Wall Street, the movie, and also got some people liked that depiction. And
Oh,
was
Gordon
like,
Gekko,
Yeah,
the greed is
Gordon
good.
Gekko.
Yeah. Yep.
He's what I strive to be. And it's like, that was not the point of that movie.
Yep.
For sure. My number 2 is from 1990, and it's Goodfellas. My second favorite Scorsese movie. What to say about Goodfellas? Just a great movie with a notable oneer.
I mean, it's a pretty famous one. I would just call it notable.
It's notable. People note it.
Yeah.
Often.
Notable's enough.
Okay. All right.
What do you want me to say? The best oneer? I don't know if I agree with that.
No, but I would say it's a very
Classic
well known
oneer?
a classic. Maybe classic is a better word than notable.
What's wrong with notable?
Notable
If I
just
hadn't
seems like
noted it, would you be arguing with me right now? The fact is, I noted it because it's notable.
Notable just doesn't seem like as important a word as the oneer is itself.
Okay.
The oneer is not.
If the
It's
oneer
not-
wasn't good, I wouldn't have noted it.
It's notable. It's not the best oneer ever.
It's in a top list of oneers.
I think it's a top list of oneers, and how it gives you geography. Like like that oneer tells a story, as well as.
So
just being
I will say
really
it's
well pulled
probably
off.
on lots of lists of great oneers,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't think it's in contention for the best oneer.
I agree with that. That's why I went with notable, not the
Notable.
best.
Yeah,
classic.
absolutely.
You could say among the best.
Oh, okay. I like among the best. Yeah,
Okay.
I'd say in the conversation.
It's among the best.
It's not in the conversation for the best.
No, it's
Others
in
are
the
the best.
conversation.
It's
Other
among
ones
them.
you might remove it, but that means still in the conversation.
Okay, so yeah, it's
Among the best.
removed from the conversation
Yeah.
of the best. Yeah, I'll give you that. My number 2 is called Killers of the Flower Moon.
Oh, wow. Well,
I think it's worth checking out.
you really liked it if it's all the way at number 2 already.
All the way at number 2. Right underneath Hugo.
Which is your number
We'll
one?
get there. No, we'll get there.
Okay. I considered Killers as my number 10. It was between that and Raging Bull, and I just think I had more time with Raging Bull to be like, okay, I know how I feel about this movie for sure. So that was a for sure number 10. But Killers is just outside this list, and maybe could be different a year later.
Nice.
All right, my number 2 is Taxi Driver, which is my 52nd favorite movie of all time. And I did rewatch this 2 nights ago, because I had not seen this 20 years ago. And I know 20-year-old Kyle thought, man, this movie's so cool and gritty and, Scorsese and the city. And I really needed to watch it as a more mature person.
With 20 years more perspective.
20, yeah, exactly. And knowing that there's been a lot of conversation about, Travis Bickle and what's this movie saying, when it was made in 1976. And I feel completely at peace with my 5-star rating and putting this where I put it after rewatching it. Because, one, just as a film, it is beautifully and masterfully made. Like, it's incredible to watch on screen. The performance from Robert De Niro is, he really is the central performance. Jodie Foster's in it. She's good. She's also 12 and plays a lot of depth as a 12-year-old actress, playing a really tough character. Sybil Shepherd's in it. I'd never really had an opinion on Sybil Shepherd either way, so she's fine enough. But this movie, to me, watching again, does not present Travis Bickle as a hero or a likable person whatsoever.
Agreed.
He is definitely portrayed as antisocial. He's portrayed as a loner. He's portrayed as someone who turns to violence to solve his problems. He has a hero moment at the end, but that's only because he decides not to assassinate a politician for the, to get the attention of a woman. He doesn't have altruistic motives to what he does. I did have some issues with the very ending of this movie upon watching it again. I forgot about sort of the last 2 minutes of the movie. But I was reading something about Scorsese, and Scorsese saying this will happen again. Travis Bickle has not redeemed himself. He will continue this cycle. So I thought that was, I kind of wish the movie maybe had shown more of that, because I do think the end is a little odd, but overall, this movie, well, not even overall, it's still a 5-star movie. I think it's great.
Is the end even real?
So it can be easily interpreted as not real, but both Scorsese and the screenwriter have said, yes, that is a real ending. That is actually happening. But Scorsese went on to say, though, but he's not a redeemed person, and like he will do this again. And this, like, he's not changed. He's not grown throughout this movie. And I don't think the movie shows him grow whatsoever either. So,
yeah. Okay.
Anyway,
James, what's your number one?
My favorite Scorsese film of all time is The Wolf of Wall Street from 2013. I think it helps that, as Zach noted, this is the funniest. It's also long and just breezes by. Like, I can watch this movie at any time and just kind of dip in and out of it. And it's kind of told in like weird, time blocks, I would say. It's fast moving. It moves from character to character in a breezy way. And it's devious in a fun way. Even if like maybe the reality of the real world people didn't consider this particularly fun, especially when they were losing their life savings to the man. But the movie itself, I believe, is kind of a blast in probably all the wrong ways. And so it's a little bit of a guilty pleasure, even though I think it's a very finely made film. My favorite of all of his, The Wolf of Wall Street.
Well, my favorite is Taxi Driver.
Yeah.
Taxi Driver is really great. I love De Niro's like monologues, about the streets.
Mm-hmm.
I rewatched this maybe in the last year, and it's just a fascinating movie. And you said you didn't really have an opinion on Sybil Shepherd, but I think she's awesome in this. She does a lot. With kind of a smaller character, but I think she does a lot. I really enjoy this movie. It's definitely a great film.
Nice.
Yeah.
What movies were on all of our? Oh, Kyle, go ahead. Do your
No,
last.
that's fine. You
Then
know.
I'll ask. I think I know what your number one is.
What do you think it is, James?
Goodfellas.
Yeah, my number one is Goodfellas, which
Right.
only comes in 3 spots higher than Taxi Driver in my top 100. So they're very close to each other.
Nice.
But I think that Goodfellas is Scorsese's masterpiece. To me, it is his best film. It is his most complete story. It has 3 amazing lead performances from De Niro, Pesci, and Ray Liotta. And then also, was it Lorraine Bracco who plays the wife?
Mm-hmm.
She's also incredible in this movie. It's some of his best filmmaking, some of his best storytelling, in the conversation for one of the greatest wonders ever. So, yeah,
Amongst the greatest wonders ever.
in the conversation,
from the conversation. Yeah.
I'm enamored by Goodfellas. I watched it with Megan a couple years ago, and we got to the end, and she was like, "Yeah, that was good." So it doesn't work for everyone. Like she liked it, but she wasn't like blown away by it or anything. So
Sure.
But
that's awesome. Okay, so movies that were on all 3 of our lists. Goodfellas, right?
yep,
Made all 3 of our lists.
Taxi Driver, maybe.
Taxi Driver.
Wolf.
Wolf of Wall Street.
Irishman.
Irishman.
Irishman, and I think that's it.
James, where would you put Killers of the Flower Moon?
Well, it was my number 6.
Oh, it
So
was
that's-
it? Oh,
that's where I put it.
My apologies. I must have been reading ahead or something.
It's all good.
My apologies. Yeah, because I know
No
Zach, you put
worries.
yours on yours list too. So
Yeah.
Sure. My number 11 was King of Comedy. So even though I don't love that movie, it's not low or anything.
Mhm.
It's among the conversation, I would say.
Do you guys want to hear my least favorite? And I think I do need to rewatch it
Okay.
yes, I do.
because I'm surprised it's my least favorite. But I really did not enjoy it at all. And it's Raging Bull.
Why?
That's
I
my
watched
number
it.
12. So
I watched it on
I like that.
VHS.
Okay.
On a 13-inch TV VHS combo.
Yep.
And I don't know. I really didn't care for it at all. But it's so well received that I think I need to give it a second chance.
Maybe you need to watch it on something bigger than a postage stamp.
But it's got that built-in VHS player, though. The convenience.
13-inch tube TV.
Yeah.
That's how I watched The Wall in
Portable.
college. You know, how movies are meant to be watched.
Yeah.
Was it letterbox too? So you had
Probably.
black bars?
Yeah. I didn't even know it was in black and white till Kyle just said it was.
Oh, you just assumed that like the TV was.
So that's great.
My least favorite is Boxcar Bertha, which was like, I think his second or third movie. And if you want to watch a Tarantino-esque Scorsese movie, Boxcar Bertha, I was watching it, was like, wow, like this feels like a Tarantino movie. I was surprised, even though Tarantino came many years later. But
That's actually on my watch list because I took my top 10 favorite directors and added all of their worst movies to my watch list, like one from each. And I just can't bring myself to watch the worst movie of my favorite directors.
sure, Boxcar Bertha has watch value.
Okay.
Like I don't think you'll hate it. It's a 2-star movie for me.
Yeah.
Which is like not torturous to watch, but it's not going to be your favorite. But you're going to watch it and be like, wow, he made this interesting. And also like you'll see things that, you know, he repeated, but like in a refined way. And this is like the most exploitation version of that, of
Okay.
these things that he later did in like a more mature way. Like there's a lot of violence in it, and it doesn't hold any punches, I would say, compared to later on in his career. It's gratuitous, but in like a silly, low budget, ridiculous way.
Really?
Yeah, for sure. All right. That's it for this episode 605 of the Cinereelists. We appreciate your listenership. If we got it wrong on Killers of the Flower Moon or our top 10 list, please let us know. heyguys at cinereelists.com. Or if you want to send your personal top 10 list of your favorite Martin Scorsese films, send it our way. Every time I do it, Zach laughs just a little more. So
I love it so much. I need it to be my ringtone for you.
Scorsese?
Scorsese.
Yeah, so hey guys at cinereelists.com. Send us an email, the comment, question, list, suggestion, movie suggestion, any of those kinds of things. Find us on YouTube, support us on Patreon, or leave us an Apple Podcast review. We'd appreciate any of those. Or follow us on social media at Cinereelists on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, or Twitter. You could also follow
Or the
me.
Discord.
Or the Discord.
Oh,
yeah, if you go to the
yeah.
Discord right now, if you're not a Patreon listener and you go to the Discord, there is an after show that we've posted to the Discord that if you haven't watched it, we'd appreciate you taking 30 minutes, watch it, and give us feedback on the questions raised within it. Because we're trying to make a show-defining decision. And there's a long discussion about it. So if you're invested in the show, go find the Discord and find that YouTube video to watch. Anyway, you could also follow me on my personal Twitter or Letterboxd account at YoJRB.
You can follow me on Twitter, or Letterboxd at Chauvin.
You can find me on Letterboxd at Peter SKB.
Next week, we're not 100% sure what we're going to do yet. Still need to define it. So no homework this week.
I don't think
We'll
we're
see you next
1%
time.
sure what we're going to do.
We're 1% sure.
I don't even think we're 1%.
We'll see you next time. Until then, keep it cinereal.
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.
This is spoilers for Killers of the Flower Moon. If you haven't seen the movie, or you don't want to hear spoilers about it, then don't listen to this. If you have seen the movie or you don't care about spoilers, then listen on, because we're going to talk openly and honestly about the movie. Another thing you could cut out of the movie is the whole epilogue part.
Oh, disagree.
Really? That was so good.
Disagree.
I'm not
Why would you
saying
cut
it
that
wasn't good and interesting, but I don't think it changes your impression of the movie at large.
No,
It definitely does.
Not
I
for
have
me.
I have an opinion on why he did that, but go ahead, Zach.
Okay.
I want to hear you. I want to hear what you say.
Well, first of all, I wanted to know what happened to everyone.
Yes.
So it just provides
You
that
can do that with
exposition.
black cards.
Oh yeah, I would love just to read for 5 minutes.
I thought it was a super creative way
Yeah.
to give that exposition in a fresh way. That again felt in place, and then to end with Scorsese himself doing the final bit. I thought was so like one of the most personal things he's done.
Felt
You know?
self-serving to me.
Oh, it didn't to me. It felt like he realizes that he's a white guy making this movie.
Yeah.
And this was his like intentional like bid to, I understand that that's the case. I still wanted to get this message out there, but this is me acknowledging that I understand, but I still wanted to do this kind of a thing. It was great.
At first, this cut to this radio show, I agree, was jarring because it is. I mean, you're jumping 30 years in the future. It felt like this is probably the 50s. They're doing this radio show, maybe the 40s.
Possible.
I don't know. It felt like a time jump. But then as it went on, I interpreted the ending as Scorsese recognizing how this part of history was forgotten, but how it was kind of trivialized. Because the presentation is of like this variety radio show where like they're telling the story and there's people who are all white actors doing voices and there's a sound effects guy in the background. And it kind of is taking this whole conclusion to this story and putting it into this sort of bite-size piece that's easy to get on the radio. I'll be like, and this is how it ends. And there's this, and here's the jail cell closing. And I think it was Scorsese kind of saying like, we forgot about this because we take these events and just sort of make them smaller than what they are.
Yeah. We don't let them change us as a people.
Right. Yeah.
I understand what you guys are saying, and I generally took the same impression from it. And also, it could go if you were trying to make the movie shorter.
No. So
and it doesn't
when I hear you
change
say,
the overarching questions you had while watching the movie.
Yeah, I mean,
When I
they
hear
could cut a
you
bunch of
say that,
flashbacks too to
James-
make it shorter. Like,
yeah, James, when I hear you say that, like you could cut out a lot of things and make it any length you want.
Sure.
But like if it adds value, if it's a good thing, then you're losing something by cutting it out. So if you're losing nothing, then yeah, but this you'd be losing something. I thought it was great. It added to the movie.
yeah,
It wasn't just this neutral add-on.
I agree. If you're gonna cut anything, cut the wildfire and Leonardo DiCaprio staring at it for like 5 minutes. Like that was maybe the one time where I was like, okay, this now feels long.
Mm-hmm.
And it felt like it was maybe supposed to, I think it's supposed to be this big emotional part of the movie where he's having this, he's trying to make this decision. Like, does he testify? Does he not? His wife is very sick. Maybe De Niro's burning his fields for insurance. I'm not quite sure why. Or maybe Scorsese just wanted like a cool effect. But like that was a part of the movie where I'm like, this could be trimmed down. And this just feels like we are dragging things out.
There's one thing the movie didn't have that I wish it did.
Aliens.
And that was aliens.
Okay.
No, there's a moment early on in the movie where there's a storm and Molly has him like just be quiet. Like we have to sit and be quiet because there's a storm happening, whatever. I would have loved for that to come back really close to the end and there'd be another storm. Maybe even like when they're talking to each other in that final scene. Mm-hmm. And like they have to sit and be quiet again. and like see a difference of like the weight of years and history, like in how they approach that storm again, you know, and the silence and looking at each other in silence kind of a thing. I thought that would have been interesting.
Yeah.
Sure. When she's talking to him pre him testifying, I think it was might have been right after. And she's trying to suss how much he knew about the shots. And she asks him, you know, what was in the shot. She clearly knew that he knew that something was in the shots, right?
Yes.
And she's
All right.
trying to figure out whether he's going to tell her the truth.
Yeah.
What do you think that scene was saying about how she felt about her husband?
I think she was trying to find out, like, does he actually love me? If he loves me, he'll tell me the truth.
And do you think the implication was, had he said the truth in that moment, she was going to actually stay with him?
Yes.
Possibly. I think she would have maybe continued to love him and respect him. She may still have left him.
Okay.
But I think her feelings about he as a person would have been different. Like, okay, he is a good person, even though he did these bad things, in the end, he's a good person. Whereas
she wanted to, has he grown?
Right.
And so like, he's saying like, I finally told all my secrets. Like I feel this weight lifted off of me. You know, I'm free now.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, okay, I have one more question and I'm going to give you the chance to continue to like grow and make this change and be a different person, or that weight that lifted from you is going to go right back on and you'll never have the chance to take it. This is your one chance to be free. And he immediately put back on the weight of lies. And she knew at that point that he just was not a strong enough character ever to trust. And if he could have told her the truth, the awful truth, right, that he had been poisoning her, you know, for all that time, if he could admit that, then she could realize that, like, despite all the awfulness and he's a terrible person, I can trust him.
Yeah.
Now. And he didn't, and she immediately left. So it was a test, but it was just such a cool scene.
I mean, he just admitted to like essentially murdering two of her sisters.
Yes.
One in a more direct way. I can't imagine the answer one way or the other would have made her decide to stay with him. I'm not disagreeing with you, Zach. I think the movie is definitely saying that she would, but man, I mean, that's some relentless loyalty if you stay with a guy after he blew your sister up.
Well,
You know
not
what I
only
mean?
that, but a yes to that question means he's also was poisoning you to the point of death.
That's what I mean. Like, there's
Yeah.
multiple reasons whether he answered yes or no to that question.
Yeah, I think she was going to leave anyway. It's just more of, what does she think of him, and him knowing what does she think of me when she leaves.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
This was the climax of his life. This one moment.
Right.
Mhm.
Could he tell the truth in that moment?
Sure.
So I went to the bathroom. I think it was when Leonardo DiCaprio and Blackie were maybe talking. Was that his name? During the pseudo interrogation. And when I came back, Robert De Niro was like hovering over Lily Gladstone in her almost deathbed.
Mhm.
Did I miss anything at that point?
I don't remember anything pivotal.
Okay.
That whole
She
section.
like, he didn't say anything to her that was a revelation or anything like that. So De Niro.
I don't even remember if he's actually there or is she hallucinating it.
Yes, I mean, I'm walking back in. It's kind of like her, and then it's him sort of standing over the bed, but it's all close up, so I can't really tell exactly what's happening.
Yeah. I think they play a little bit with the idea that she's seeing some of the patterns, you know what I mean? And putting things
Okay.
together in her
Okay.
haze. I'm not sure they're perfectly clear on that, but they're kind of hinting that she's seeing deviousness in the people around her.
Mm-hmm.
That movie had maybe the coolest owl I've ever seen in a movie.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Like, what kind of owl is that?
Was
I
that
don't
a
know,
real owl or a digital owl?
Real
I think
owl.
that was real.
I don't know.
James thinks every bird in a movie is digital.
Steven Seagal.
How would you get an owl to do exactly what you needed it to do?
You know, they can train animals with food. Like, the owl doesn't know it's acting. It just lands there because there's food, and then sees off camera there's food over there, and
I don't
Bam.
know. That 200 million went somewhere. Might have been the digital owl.
James, if you had to bet money,
Right.
you had to bet good money. Fake owl or real owl? Where do you fall?
You mean seriously?
seriously,
You want
yeah,
me to
Yeah.
give you a serious answer?
Yeah.
Real owl.
okay,
But I like the idea of not of arguing because you could do that digitally, but I'm not sure you
Did
can
you
do
hear
it
that-
as well as a real one.
Oh,
Did
not
you hear
at all.
that Jesse Plemons was completely digital?
I did.
He wasn't able to come.
Yeah. It was
yeah.
hard to,
It was like Tig Notaro's situation from Army of the Dead. He filmed all his stuff on green screen,
Yeah.
and then they inserted him into yeah. No,
Why
I,
did they do that with Tig? I don't remember.
Army of Dead did that move. Did that with her.
Why though? Why did they do that with?
Oh,
her?
because whoever was playing that character originally got canceled.
Okay.
So they wanted to recast the role, but the movie was already shot.
Gotcha.
So then they just reshot it with Tig.
I mean, that was
Those
kind of
parts.
impressive. I remember us talking about that was maybe the only impressive thing about that movie was like it was hard to tell that Tig was like inserted afterwards.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I forgot everything about that movie whatsoever, but I remember
Other
that
than
Tig
that.
Notaro was
Right.
added later. No, I did read though that Jesse Plemons or Leonardo DiCaprio was originally going to play the Jesse Plemons role, and
Sure.
then as the story became more about the relationship between the couple, he then took over that role, and then so they did some shuffling.
Has anybody read the book?
No.
I've
But
heard
I want to.
I've heard the book is mostly from the perspective of the FBI.
Oh, interesting. Okay,
Even the subtitle is the making of the FBI or something like that.
Yeah.
That it's
and like
more
maybe that's
about-
what the screenplay originally was like the FBI investigating this, and that would make sense for Leonardo DiCaprio to be in that role.
That's what I heard is that it originally was much more like the FBI, like procedural, kind of like trying to like crack the case.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And then a couple years into development, they had a come to Jesus moment where they like talked about like we need to include an Osage like perspective in this.
Right.
Sure.
Right, because this movie would have like the FBI didn't show up until 2 hours into this movie.
Yeah, probably 2.5.
Yeah.
Easy.
So like imagine this movie where it's like the first 2 hours is told in like a title card.
James would have loved that.
I would have.
Nothing lost.
The couple next to me walked out of the movie right around when Jesse Plemons came on screen. Like,
Oh wow.
I'm not saying like nothing egregious happened when they left. I don't know if they were feeling the runtime, if they had somewhere to be, or maybe they're just bored. But like all of a sudden, they just got up and walked out, and I was like, well, I think they're coming back. So
3 teenage boys watched about the first 25 minutes in my theater and then left.
okay, do you think they were theater hopping?
Probably.
Yeah, probably.
My theater doesn't display what movies are in what theaters anymore. It just calls them auditorium 13, 14, 15.
Mine doesn't either.
Because of theater hopping, you think?
I'm assuming. I
Really?
can't think of another reason.
Oh,
I feel like ever since the pandemic, they no longer put them in the little marquees.
oh,
What
here in the
movie's
wholesome
playing?
Midwest, they display the theater and a seat map with all the seats that are available and taken. So like you could easily.
Oh,
Not
on
that-
like a
Wait,
little
like-
screen outside the theater?
Oh yeah, outside the theater is a screen with the
Wow. With
With the
title
seat map?
and a seat map, and you can see which seats are taken and which are free.
Like
I don't
outside
theater
the
hop.
door of each individual theater or
Each
outside the
individual
theater?
theater
Wow.
outside the door. Again, I don't theater hop, but if you wanted to, you could easily be like, oh, G14, no one's sitting there because it's all assigned seating.
Right.
Yeah.
Huh.
Why do they do that?
Because just like Toledo, Ohio, we're wholesome and amazing.
No, but like what is the reason to have a map?
Oh, I have no clue why. I mean, I honestly, I don't know. To me, it's more fun to walk by and just see like what's sold out. You know, like what movies are popular and what is no one going to see right now. So
And maybe it's for like the crew.
the
right?
cleaning,
They can look at the map and then go in and see like, oh, is this generally what is sold? Or maybe people are theater hopping. It's like a reference. I don't know.
yeah.
In my theater, in the first 5 minutes, the focus was screwed up.
Oh, that's the worst.
Guess who saved the day?
Okay, so did you go out and say something?
Oh yeah,
Yeah, because like whenever there's
wasn't
something
getting
off,
better.
yeah, you were like, is this going to be like this the whole time?
Yeah, and there's like a lot of subtitles in the beginning, and like that clearly showed me like this was out of focus type of
Yeah.
thing. So I kept waiting. And then like maybe 2.5 minutes in, I was like, I guess I got to get up and go fix this because there's clearly going to be subtitles in this movie that can't go the whole movie with it being like that. So ran out, went and got somebody. And then as I was walking back in, somebody else was coming down the hallway in a huff. And I was like, don't worry. I took care of it.
Then James just said, not every hero wears a
How long
cape.
did it take to fix?
Like almost immediately they had it fixed after I told them. Like by the time I sat down, maybe 30 seconds later, it was fixed.
Nice.
So
James, when was your bathroom break?
I don't remember.
Kyle loves bathroom breaks.
I really don't remember.
Well, okay. So intermissions.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was looking at old movies, you know, if I'm talking like the first half of the century, the 20th century. And they're of similar run times, like Ben-Hur and Spartacus, and I can't think of one other one I was looking at. All those movies are over 3 hours long. The Ten Commandments, they all have intermissions. And I don't see what is wrong with putting in a 5 to 10, like even a 5-minute intermission.
I personally don't see a problem with it either. And if I was a theater, I'd be all for it because people are going to get up and get popcorn.
Exactly.
But I don't know why they don't do it.
I don't know. I mean, like we
I think
had
the
a history of doing
filmmakers-
intermissions,
Yeah.
and then it just went away. But the movie run times didn't go away. I don't understand why we can't bring it back.
I think the filmmakers don't want it. I think it does break immersion on some level.
Yeah, but so does like my bladder screaming at me.
I mean, I definitely got up and went to the bathroom, but as someone who was sitting towards the end, most people in my row didn't. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
clearly
Oh, yeah,
other
yeah.
people didn't need an
You
intermission.
guys
So,
drink too much water or something.
yeah.
No, but I'm just saying like it shouldn't have to be. Again, I don't know their stamina. It shouldn't have to be like this battle of will and stamina against the movie. Like, you shouldn't have to choose. Am I uncomfortable to break immersion, or do I go to use the bathroom?
Kyle's like upset about how long this movie was.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
had to
No,
go to
I'm
the
not- I've gotta
bathroom.
say with the length of the
I think
movie-
you need to go to a urologist and just
The
have
length
a
of the movie
conversation.
is fine. Don't worry, Zach. We're all good at that department.
Were there any blanket people in the theater, Kyle? Were you
No,
upset about
there
that
was
at
no
all?
blanket people, but there was a guy in the row in front of me using a windbreaker as a blanket, which is almost worse because it was so noisy. Like every time he would shuffle, it'd be like just like swishing of nylon against nylon.
Sure.
Yeah,
Should it-
a windbreaker at a theater is probably not a great idea.
no.
So no,
sure.
there were not. I mean, this didn't feel like a blanket people kind of movie. So
Mhm.
no one's like tucking in with their loved one for 3.5 hours of murdering of Osage people.
Kyle, you might understand and still be horrified by this, but I brought in my Soda Stream bottle.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah, so just a full bottle of soda from my Soda Stream.
And you drank it,
Yeah,
and
great.
and then you peed in the bottle when you were done, right?
It's amazing. I think probably 20% of your brain at all times is like, how close is a bathroom? I did not think about going to the bathroom once during this movie.
Really? You gotta be aware of where the bathrooms are. You gotta know your options.
I can normally hold out. But when you
Oh,
can't, you can't.
I did fine for Oppenheimer. All 3 hours wasn't even on my
Sure.
mind. So it's just a case by case basis. This time around, like I went after jujitsu. It was afternoon. I hadn't eaten anything yet, so I definitely had like a popcorn lunch and had a little soda with it. So if I had not had the popcorn and soda, 3.5 hours would have been no problem. But you
So did
throw
you
in the popcorn and
shower?
soda.
Did you shower between jujitsu and the movie theater?
No, but I did put deodorant on.
Gross. You're probably all stinky in there.
Just
Whoever was sitting
sweaty,
next to you was like, "Oh."
just moist.
That's probably why the couple left next to me.
All right, we are way off track. Anything else? Spoilers
For
on
the spoiler section.
Killers of the Flower Moon.
Do you guys have a good urologist you could recommend?
No, I don't.
No,
Keeping mine to myself.
don't have one.
Anybody changing their ranking?
No,
No.
4.5. Great movie.
All right. Still 2 4s and a 4.5. Thanks for listening, guys. We'll see you next time. Until then, goodbye.